Hey everybody, I'm Sarah. You already know that since my name is right down there. I spent 5 years in the multi-level marketing industry. I was brainwashed, I was love bombed, I was manipulated, and now I'm here to make sure no one else does that too. So let's get started. So, if we are being completely honest, I have officially re recorded this video twice now. I don't know why I'm so afraid to speak out. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time really talking about stuff. It wasn't that bad. MELALEUCA is just known for going after people who say anything negative about them in any way, shape, or form. So, I'm honestly afraid I'm going to get sued. But I sat with Chris for a really long time. We talked about it and we eventually just came to the conclusion that staying silent is worse than speaking up. So, as of right now, the way I stand against multi-level marketing companies, I would brand MELALEUCA as a multi-level marketing company. And so I'm going to speak about them and I'm going to speak about my experience. Once again, this is based on my sole experience in the company. These are my opinions. These are my firsthand accounts, and that's it. So, that being said, let's get started. So, I had my first Zoom call with Paige. She was very, very upbeat, very excited. I was desperate. I had already been in a couple of multi level marketing companies. I wasn't doing great. Those were failed businesses. I felt like I was struggling. I felt like I could have done better. I just needed a better vehicle to get there. We get on a Zoom and she goes over the compensation plan very, very lightly. It's mostly about the products. I do notice that the products are pretty overpriced, but if I'm replacing my shopping, then I guess it's not too over the top, you know? So she asked me what my income desires are, what my dreams are, what my goals are. And I tell her I would really just like to make $2,500 a month. That would be enough where I could cover my car payment. I could match what my husband was making at the time in the military. It would just benefit our family, $2,500. So she looks at me and she's like, yeah, that's totally doable. You could do that in like a month and a half. That would be so easy. And I was like, damn. Okay, well, then let's freaking do it. So I sign up the same day. I think I bought like the $200 kit. It had all kinds of cleaning supplies in it. It had, all of their stuff because MELALEUCA sells damn near everything. So it had a little bit of everything in it just so I could try a bunch of stuff. So I had just joined off the back of convention. So the big theme of everything Paige talked about was how mean the reps were to her at convention, how rude they were because she looked different and she acted different and her team was different. So a lot of the Zoom calls consisted of her basically just like lighting a fire under us, like really wanting this younger new generation of team to come through and kind of sweep the MELALEUCA market and take over what these other older generations of teams had done and kind of make like a new face for the company. So that was a lot of what we were hearing when I first joined. And I will use her own words for a second because a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about kind of like goes into that. But she would say a lot, we were ignorance on fire. We were, because we were a newer team. We were not really paying attention to what necessarily MELALEUCA had to say, but more of like, how can we get more people on the team? How can we make more sales? They hadn't really piloted procedures around social media yet because it's such an old company. They were still doing face-to-face activities, phone call activities, in-home parties and stuff like that. And multi-level marketing companies just don't really work like that anymore. So we kind of piloted the social media aspect of MELALEUCA, and they actually created a lot of the policies they have now based on what our team was doing on social media. So we were doing 3 to 4 Zooms a day. We were sitting either reaching out to people, we didn't call it cold messaging, but it would be definitely reaching out to a semi cold market. So it would be a very lukewarm market where you barely knew who they were. You definitely didn't know them in person. It was only on social media. media, and we were messaging them, trying to get them onto a Zoom call so that Paige could pitch the opportunity, pitch the products, and all that kind of stuff. So we spent most of our week sending out messages, friend requesting people, sitting on social media, trying to make posts where a lot of people would comment so that we could start transforming a cold market into a warm market based on how much interaction we're having with them on social media. And then essentially inviting them to the weekly Zoom call that she would do, explaining how the products work. Basically the same exact Zoom that her and I went on. It was difficult to sell people on the products because they were so expensive. So you have to remember, at the time, I was a brand new military spouse. I had a brand new baby. My husband at the time had only been in the military for less than a year, so we weren't making a ton of money. So the products, even for us, were a little overpriced, let alone trying to pitch them to other military spouses who were in the exact same boat as us, if not in worse shape. And so that was a real big struggle, and always having to counteract those objections with, oh, you know, the products are made fresh and we have to do new batches every couple of months. So that's why you have to order every single month so that they can throw away the old ingredients and get fresh ingredients. They know how much everyone's ordering every single month, blah, 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 blah. That was kind of like their big thing, was when somebody would complain about why we have to order every month. Well, that's why. It's because they're throwing away ingredients every single month or every couple of months so that we can have fresh ingredients. So like I said, we were one of the first teams who were using social media to market MELALEUCA. So a lot of the stuff we were doing in the beginning, we ended up having to change based on the policies that they started putting in place, because we were doing calls to action. We were telling people to get on our Zooms. We were messaging people like crazy. And they were like, oh my God, these people are wild. They're going to burn the fields. So they started throwing policies on us left and right. And we really had to be careful what we were doing after that. And that became so frustrating because they preach, oh, it's your business. You're a business owner. You're a CEO. You get to work when you want. You're not. You're essentially an employee. You're just not being taxed on the income that you have. So it makes it a little harder to file taxes at the end of the year, but you're an employee to this company. We had a Facebook page for the team exclusively. You had to prove that you were a rep in order to be inside of the Facebook group, and you also had to be actively working the business. So they would gut the team page every 90 days or so, and people who weren't working the business would get kicked out of the team page. So it was only active builders that were inside of the Facebook page, and in there were Facebook Live out the of just toxic positivity, mindset, how people went viral on social media, how can you use your social media to build your business and stuff like that. So the first 3 months that I spent with MELALEUCA, I was essentially just binging that information, just constantly listening to the videos that were saved on there. I would have an AirPod in and be like taking care of my baby, and also listening to a mindset call that somebody had done like 3 months prior that was saved on the page. So it was a lot of consumption of just toxic positivity and almost like low-key brainwashing, and just MELALEUCA all day, every day. And of course, the uplines are going to say, well, we didn't tell you to do that. We didn't tell you you had to watch all the Zooms all the time, but they make you feel like you do. So anytime you ask a question about something, or if you're lost in some way or confused about something, they'll ask, well, did you watch that Zoom, or did you watch that live, or did you read the post that was in the group page? And so they're not telling you you have to go watch all those things, or you need to spend all this time, reading that material, but you do, because they direct you right back to it. You guys will just have to excuse my cats. They are on something right now. I do not know what, but they are roughhousing like crazy, and I do not have time to re-record this video today, so I'm just going to keep trying to talk over them. So if you hear rustling in the background, that is them. They are whooping each other's butts for some reason. I don't know why, but just ignore it. Also, inside of that Facebook group, we had albums packed full of pictures of product, before and after photos, cleaning photos that everyone in the team had compiled together that they had all taken. And so 99% of the pictures that you would see coming from that team weren't even ours. We were using pictures from other people on the team because you can't clean everything all of the time and do a before and after picture. Sometimes you would just pop into that album, you would snatch some photos out of there that aligned with like the post you wanted to make, and you would just post those. So eventually a lot of the same photos started matriculating around social media, which I feel like that happens a lot in MLMs because people either just like don't know what they're doing, or they don't have the time or the materials to really post about what they want to post about. And so in order to market the products they want to sell, they will use team photos that aren't even theirs. So the recommendation they're giving is essentially false, and it really makes it hard to trust people. So the very first trip I went on was actually hosted by our upline Paige. So she did a couple of these a year. She would do team incentives within just her team. So it was not sponsored by MELALEUCA, it was sponsored by her. She would pay for everything. Allegedly, I'm not sure, I believe her other uplines that were directly under her, it was like a trio of them, they would help pitch in too. So it was kind of like that trifecta was paying for the trip. So the first trip we went on was Gulf Shores. It was honestly amazing. There was lots and lots of drinking on the trip. There was lots and lots of cattiness, which that happens anytime you get a group of MLM Huns together. When you have friends that essentially turn into colleagues and money is at stake, it becomes very weird, just a weird environment to be in. There was a really like big thing going on at the time because Paige had just brought on a bigwig from It Works, and the bigwig had brought all of her team with her. So allegedly there was some legal issues because of that due to her bringing her team over with her. So I think there was like something going on with It Works and her, and I think Paige was looped in too because they thought it was like a whole big thing. Allegedly, they talked about it a lot. Someone accidentally got too high when we were there because I don't remember if she had taken an edible or if she had just smoked a pen or something, but she could not handle it, and we thought we were going to have to call an ambulance for her, but she ended up pulling out of it, thank God. Paige did cater the whole thing. We ended up having trainings which were basically just product information. It was Q&As on the products, Q&As on how the business ran. She went over the compensation plan more in detail. They also did social media trainings. They even had me do a training, which at the time I was going viral on TikTok a lot. We were just on the end of the pandemic, and so everyone was on TikTok at the time, but none of my information was beneficial to them because I wasn't talking about MELALEUCA on my TikTok. I was just being authentically myself without any monetary value attached to it. So I did a training, but I don't know if it even benefited any of them because it didn't have anything to do with the MLM. At the end of the trip, this was the weird part. After binge drinking and talking, we had a baptism. It ended in a baptism at the beach, and me and the girl I was rooming with look over at each other and we're thinking, what the hell is going on? And so I left that trip just feeling like I came out of an acid dream. So I go back home, and keep in mind, I'm about a year and a half in by now. My checks every month are still only about $1,100. And when you think about how much product I was buying in order to keep up the image and have enough product to make my own pictures and my own social media material, I was really only making like $600 a month because my orders sometimes would be in upwards of like $400 or $500. I would have so much product coming in, especially if they were launching something new. I was the first one who had to have it. By then, I wasn't in the inner circle, and anyone in an MLM or who has been in an MLM will understand what I'm saying. There's an inner circle with the head upline and usually her direct uplines, and then anyone who's working really, really, really hard and busting their butts and making them a lot of money. So there's kind of like this desirable mean girl clique that you want to be in, and that's one of the reasons you work so hard, is because they always say, oh, a friendship, a sisterhood. It's not, it's mean girl. Straight up, it's mean girl. And your goal is to just to get shift to the mean girl circle so that people don't talk badly about you. So at the time, I wasn't all the way in the inner circle, but I was close because I was a direct downline of Paige, who was the very top of our team. And so I would spend time on Zooms with like the top 20 leaders on the team, and it would literally just be talking their teams. They would be complaining about how nobody was working. They would talk about how they need a fresh team, how they just need to forget those who are not working and start fresh, look for new people, look for people who want to work hard and stuff like that. I remember thinking that's not how you treat people. You don't treat them like numbers. They're actual humans. And so that was just such a weird space to be in. So convention was over Zoom that year. People were still a little weary about traveling. So they did everything over like a webinar over a weekend. So we sat from Saturday morning well into Sunday night on the Zoom. After every single webinar or recording, they were releasing new products. So they released probably like 5 to 10 new products every day that were available to the reps right away. And now that I think about it, that is honestly genius on their part because they didn't have to pay for a convention center. They didn't have to pay for travel. They didn't have to pay to get all that product there. They didn't have to pay for speakers, nothing. They literally just had to record all this content for a Zoom, and all of the reps bought all the new shit that they released, which is wild to me. I would love to know how much money they made off of just the new products that they released during that convention weekend. I am so curious now that I'm thinking about it. Not long after that, we had an Idaho trip. This one was also hosted by Paige and her trifecta of women. And also by then, I had been in long enough where I was forking out money for the trips too. So I paid for a rental car to get girls up to the cabin. I paid for my flight. I paid for some of the alcohol that we brought. Of course, there was drama at that trip as well. And Paige was not omitted from any of this drama. She was sometimes the middle of it, and she loved to talk just as much as anybody else. And what a trend was with her is when she would bring on a really big leader, either from another MLM company or somebody who was just coming in and was a hard hitter, they would do really well working together for maybe a month or two, and then she would essentially just outcast them or excommunicate them, even though they were still on the same team and Paige was still her upline. You basically became an outcast as soon as you started second guessing her leadership skills or second guessing the way she was leading her team or anything like that. She would outcast you. And so it was very cult leader of her to act like that. Once again, this trip had very, very, very heavy drinking, lots of drinking, so much in fact that me and a group of girls drove down the snow-packed driveway into the tiny ass town that we were staying in to buy more alcohol because we had run out. We did an exercise where we all sat in a big room, hungover. Are you good? Oh my goodness. Sorry. So we all sat in this big room. We're all hungover. And Paige tells us we're going to write an obituary to ourselves. And I'm like, okay. I'm a crier, but I don't like to cry in public. And so this was a very weird situation for me to be in. But instead of it being a traditional obituary, like what family members were leaving behind, she wanted us to emphasize like what legacy we're leaving behind for our kids. So it was more an exercise for us to figure out how we can work our business harder so that we can leave something better behind for our children and for our family. It was very, very weird. A lot of women like broke down crying. It was very odd. There was more training there. It was a lot of product learning again. And then it was a lot of don't let people get you down. Don't let others second guess you. You're in this for you. This is your business. The generic like MLM BS that they feed you so that you don't listen to people's logic. The top earners actually earned a dinner cruise, which was actually pretty sweet and it was beautiful. So I don't really have a lot to say about that. It was actually a really cool experience. Definitely brought to light more of the fact that people really just wanted to be inside of the inner circle. So being able to be close to Paige and close to her little trio that she had, the girls were all over that. We just wanted to be as close to them as possible. It was so weird now that I think about it. And then once again, everything was for social media. So everything was a photo op. Everything was so that we could create content for social media. Absolutely. After that, I got back. We ended up PCSing. So I was exhausted. I was moving my kids. I was getting them adjusted in school. I was also running nightly Zooms for the team. And on those Zooms, we would just follow up with potentials. We were cold messaging people. They didn't like to call it cold messaging, but that's what we were doing. We were posting on social media. We were running our stories, just running through our stories so that it would show that we were having engagement on there. We were sending people happy birthday messages, kinds of stuff like that. So I would be on Zoom for the better half of my night, and I would have my husband at the time put my girls to bed, and then he would go to bed by himself, and I would stay up and keep working my business until the wee hours of the night. So one thing with Melaleuca is we are pressured to never question any of the products. So if something came out that a customer had a question about or we were questioning about, we were really given a non-answer and then redirected to like a bullshit website that didn't give us any information. There was a stint for a little bit where everyone was questioning the beauty products because all of our stuff, Melaleuca's claim to fame is that everything is made in the USA. But on the back of the health and wellness products, the beauty products, it would say made in Italy. And so when we asked, is this product made in Italy, which is fine if it is, that's okay with me. Stuff can be made in Italy. But when we asked, is this product made in Italy, they would get so offended and they would say, oh no, the product is not made in Italy. The bottle is made in Italy. The contents that are inside are made in the USA. And I remember thinking, and please correct me if I'm wrong, why the hell doesn't the bottle say made in the USA then? If the contents inside of the bottle are made in the USA, then why doesn't it say that? Because I have never had a product say that it was made in another country because the packaging was made in another country. Am I wrong? Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but that does not sound right to me. So convention was over Zoom that year. People were still a little weary about traveling. They did everything over like a webinar. Well, I did earn the annual incentive trip to Mexico. We went to Cancun. I'm gonna be honest with you, the trip was actually amazing. It was like a dream come true. What I had to do to get there was, I have no other words for it, honestly embarrassing as a mother. So I was working nonstop 24 hours a day. I was messaging. I was constantly thinking about what I can put into my business. What can I do? I was going live. I was featuring products. I was doing absolutely everything. I was encouraged to put my kids in front of the TV so I could work a little extra hours. My husband at the time was cooking them dinner. He was basically a single dad for 3 months because we had 3 months to earn the trip. And they don't, once again, they do not encourage you to act like this, but they make it damn near impossible to not do it. If you just continue to work your business traditionally, like how you're supposed to, which would be like 4 to 6 hours a day, then you wouldn't earn the trip. You have to put in so many extra hours and enroll so many more people in order to earn the trip. There was no way you were going to get around that. So because I had earned so many points, Melaleuca actually did pay for my flight to Cancun, and they paid for the hotel, they paid for all the food. The only thing they didn't pay for was like souvenirs and outings outside of the resort. So they really did hold up their end of the bargain as far as that went. Hey everybody, editing Sarah here. So what I completely forgot to add in this whole portion is that we get taxed on absolutely every gift, every incentive, every single thing that an MLM quote unquote gifts to you. You have to pay back in taxes. So my flight, my car from the airport to the resort, everything, the food, I had to pay back in taxes later that year. It was rough. content, but we had to work so hard to get that. I don't understand how that would be sustainable. The very last night, they had an outdoor dinner. It was hosted by MELALEUCA. They had the big, huge signs. If I can find a picture, I'll feature it here. They had a barbecue and all of the corporate people, all the people that we see on Zoom all the time. Stop it. That is not your sweet tea. Ash, Jesus, take the wheel. All the corporate people were there at the dinner, and the only way I can describe it is like when you go to a character meet and greet at Disneyland and the characters are like walking around from table to table taking pictures and stuff and greeting everybody. It's literally the same, except instead of it being Mickey Mouse, it's some old dude in a suit. It was so odd to me because I didn't even know who half of them were, and you would have thought that they were the president of the United States. Like, I do not understand. Of course, once again, absolutely everything we did was encouraged to be posted on social media and was a photo op and was a content opportunity. It was like you were still working even though you were supposed to be on vacation. So we were creating TikToks on the beach. We were always taking pictures. We were thinking about what we could post next. It was not fun when it came to that aspect of it. Everything had to be a photo op. So I went home from that trip super duper duper fired up. I was ready to finally kick my business in gear. I had my mindset all straight. That was the only thing getting in my way, right? Was my mindset. That's the only thing that could be stopping me, right? So I really hit the ground running, and that died out very, very quickly because I started to feel like all the relationships that I had within MELALEUCA were transactional. I started to feel like even myself, because I had been in for so long, was just thinking of people as a transaction, and I felt like a transaction as well. So if I wasn't putting something into the team, if I wasn't enrolling a customer, then what worth was I, is what it essentially came down to. Unfortunately, when you're in an MLM for long enough, your mind starts to play tricks on you where when you think you want to start leaving and this business isn't for you and you're starting to think like maybe it's not me, your brain does this thing because you've been told that it is you and you've been told it's your mindset and you've been told if you work hard you can be just like them. You start to think, okay, I just need to work harder and I'll be just like them. You know, I need to stop thinking of the negativity. I need to stop thinking that walking away is the answer, and I just need to work harder. In a series of events, I hopped on YouTube. I typed in how to be successful in network marketing or how to move up the ladder in my MLM. And what I did find instead was Cece Suarez, bless her spicy heart. And I went down the rabbit hole very, 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 very quickly. And I realized, oh my God, I might be in a cult and I need to get out immediately. So I stopped posting so much about it. I stopped buying as many products. I went back to work. Honestly, completely changed my life. I am a different woman than I was even a year and a half ago. I am definitely not saying that leaving an MLM changed all of that, but it definitely changed my perspective on how I view the world. It's left me with a lot of trauma. I second guess myself when I'm making relationships with people because I've been so used to always having a relationship be transactional that I even start questioning myself on why I want to be friends with people because I don't need anything from them now. It's all just emotional. There's no monetary value attached to relationships now, and that's something that you really have to learn to deal with and work through. And then also the gaslighting. I just automatically assume people are gaslighting me right away, and it's because I was gaslit and love bombed for so long. I really thought that's how relationships were just supposed to go. That's pretty much my whole stint with MELALEUCA. I was really nervous to make this video. I still am. I don't know the repercussions that will come from it. It'll be really sad if something does come out of this because it's literally just my story and just my perspective. But I'm going to leave you with this voice message that was sent to me when I started speaking out about MLMs. It's from Paige. I changed her voice so that nobody can recognize her, but I want you guys to realize the value that you have in someone else's eyes when you're making them money, because that's all it is. You're just making them money. So I'm just going to leave you with that, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey, Sarah. So I really debated whether I was going to say anything or not. I honestly don't have words, and if you want to try to take what I'm saying and manipulate it, you can go right ahead and do that. I have consistently checked in on you over the years, whether you were making me money or not. I have always been kind to you. I have always told you that whether you ever work again or not, that I love you and I consider you a friend. The last conversation that I had with you, you were excited to come back. So whatever happened in that period of time, I don't know, and I don't care to know. But whatever you're doing on social media right now, like if that is what you feel called to do, you go ahead and do that. But I want to be very clear that I have always been kind to you. I have always supported you. I have always defended you. I have always checked on you when you weren't making me a penny. So I hope you have a really great life. I hope you figure it out. I hope you have all of the joy that you deserve in the world. But this is going to be the point where I go ahead and remove myself from this relationship. And that's that.